So it's good to go in with a little bit of confidence that whatever they throw at me, I have an approach for. Hi, everyone. Welcome. This is Seven Sage, and this is a segment where we're answering some questions that you all send in. I'm ZeSean.
I'm Henry. Ready to rock and roll here.
Rock and roll with Big H. We've got a
Big
question
Z.
here. Yeah, we've got a question here from Lana. Henry, do you want to read it? Do you want to make me read it?
Sure. This is Lana's question. I have a question about if/when you'd recommend moving on from a question without reading all the answer choices, when I feel confident about one of the couple answer choices I really need. I really struggle with timing, and I typically do not get through every question on practice tests. However, I usually read over every answer choice, A through E, for the questions I do get to, even when I feel confident in, for example, answer choice A. Okay. Do you have any suggestions about when I should move on to the next question without reading all the answer choices? Thank you! Exclamation point. Two exclamation
points. I have some
points?
thoughts on this.
Two
exclamation points. Very enthusiastic.
Okay. Thank you, Lana. Right, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Lana, first of all. I have some thoughts, Henry. I don't know if you have thoughts immediately, but I would say, it depends. So I do think sometimes it's appropriate to see the right answer jump out at you and pick it and immediately move on. I would say that works best in the question 1 through 10 range on the LR section, where the answers are going to be more obvious. Those are easier questions. They're not typically trick questions with trap answer choices. So if you're in the 1 through 10 on an LR section, questions 1 through 10, if the right answer is jumping out at you, I would pick it and move on if you really got that intuition. I might not do that in the 20 through 25 range. That's where maybe I would read all of them just in case you settled on a trap answer that sounded kind of pretty. That's kind of my take. I don't know what you would say, Henry.
Yeah, I think that there's something to be said about doing it based on where the question is. So first 10, usually there's not many traps. And so if answer is A, B, C, I don't know, those look pretty good to you and you feel pretty sure about it, probably worth just picking it and seeing what happens. I also think, too, based on the question type, some of these questions are not written in terms of comparatives, right? So weakening, strengthening, most strongly supported. Those are comparative not because one answer choice is strengthening a lot and another answer choice is strengthening a little, but because there's going to be one answer that does strengthen, but how much it strengthens or doesn't strengthen is going to vary. I think it's a little harder to pick those outright, especially in those later, beyond question 10. But I think things like must be true, sufficient assumption, necessary assumption, if you're used to them, I mean, either it's sufficient or it isn't. Either it's necessary or it isn't. Either it must be true or it isn't, or it doesn't have to be true. And so if you look at answer as A and this gets the conclusion done in a sufficient assumption, or A, this is necessary for the argument, or A, right, this is guaranteed to be true, I would just pick those. I think for me, especially, I mean, I don't know, I'm guessing you too, at this point, once you become familiar enough with those types of questions, sometimes you just look at an answer choice and you just know it's necessary or it has to be true based on it, regardless of if it's a tough question or not. So I think that's probably another thing I'd pay attention to. So maybe more hesitant with weakening questions and strengthening.
Maybe a little more hesitant. Yeah, I would say so. When you took your real LSAT, Henry, did you if the right answer choice was A, did you pick it and move on, or did you read the others as just a sanity check? I think I would be too scared to just move on, at least for questions in the later range. But were you super confident? Oh, I know it's A. I'm not even going to read the rest.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I really wanted to make sure I had time at the end of the test to double check answers and not run into time pressure. This is kind of what Lana was getting to, where, you have 100% chance of getting something wrong that you don't see. And so way better to settle for okay, I'm 60% sure. So my own testing philosophy was first 10, even really 15 questions, go very fast. Don't really care. Rely on intuition. 15 through beyond, I definitely maybe glanced at every answer choice, whereas I don't know, in question 1, if I looked at A and I liked it, I didn't even know what the other answer choices said. Whereas questions 15 and beyond, I would maybe look at A in a must be true question that's conditional based. Okay, that's my strength. I'll look at A. This feels like it must be true. Quick glance at B through E. Not even really considering them, but just saying, does something look obviously better? right? In
Yeah.
case anything jumped out, or maybe does
Right.
anything look even remotely close to this? Just to spot check, just to make sure that I wasn't like totally messing something up. But if I hit those strengthening questions or those weakening questions, things that have a comparative in the question stem, I definitely looked at every answer as pretty deeply.
Yeah.
And then I had like 8 minutes at the end, a little bit more than that, to go back and double check the first 10 questions. I think that's really
Which is
easy.
great. 8 minutes at the end is awesome.
Yeah. Well, I did a lot of
Yeah.
practice. I don't know. What about you? What
Yeah,
was your
yeah.
plan?
Well, I think I was just gonna say before I get to me, like what I'm hearing from you is actually a really great tip in general, which is not to dwell on answer choices. Like I think I see so many students get caught on like, oh, it's either B or D, and they're just reading them over and over again
Yeah.
and dwelling on answer choice. And the real mentality you want to be in is like, does this strengthen or not? Or is this a sufficient assumption or not? And boom, eliminate, eliminate. Like you want to be
Yeah.
quick to eliminate to the point. Maybe you want to err on the side of eliminating, where like I think you maybe sometimes like I would eliminate all five answer choices,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, no, for sure.
You
Yeah.
know, and that's you want to be in that sort of hyper scrutiny, like this does not speak to me. Boom. You know, that's where you want to be. I think if you're going to err on one side, rather than giving every answer like this generous reading. Oh, this sounds kind of good. You know, so I heard that when you were talking like that as just a general tip that
Yeah.
I think everybody should internalize. For me, I think I was similar. I knew I was really ready to take the LSAT, and I knew I was confident when I could read a question stem, a stimulus, pre-phrase the answer, find my pre-phrased answer in the answer choices, and not worry about the rest. Maybe quick, brief check through, but mostly like I'd be 2-3 words in, and I'd be able to cross it off. And that's an amazing feeling when you really know the answer, you know the other ones are totally irrelevant, and you move on. I think one other thing to bring up is that, and this is a question that struck me, is this idea of not looking at the rest of the answer choices potentially a band-aid solution to a larger timing problem that Lana is having? Do you think are there other timing strategies you'd recommend before this one?
I don't. Not really in the sense. It really depends. Again, I mean, there's a lot of depends. I think that there's actually probably enough time on this test where if you're very familiar with the test, you can read the stimulus, look at every answer, consider them, and pick it.
Yeah.
If you're a perfect test taker, right? Which to me just implies too that part of timing is just familiarity with problems,
Yeah.
and
Right.
how they generally go. Like one of the
Yeah,
things I'm
I
always
know
looking
what
for.
I'm gonna have to do here.
Yeah, right. Like
Yeah.
in whenever I read the question stem, it should prompt you into like what are some tropes that are going to happen here? What are some things
Right.
to avoid? Right. So sufficient assumption questions, like that there's usually going to be a premise to conclusion gap, or if not
Right.
that, a premise to premise gap. So like already when you're reading the stem, you're thinking like, do I see any words that jump up in the conclusion but nowhere in the premises?
Right.
Strengthening and weakening structurally, a lot of them are phenomenon hypothesis, and so like going into that, scanning the answers for anything that's an alternative explanation instead of like looking at these questions as individual unique questions,
Yeah.
realizing that a lot of them fit into a bucket, and then the right answers will also fit into that bucket. And so I think what you're getting at is like maybe not a fundamental timing strategy, but more about how can you shift your perspective on the test instead of looking at it as 27 individual questions, realizing that, I don't know, maybe it's 5 different arguments and they all fall into those buckets of 5 different arguments and what you would
Right.
do there. Does that kind of make sense? Am I making sense
Oh,
there?
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I think I love your point about just being familiar, knowing that, hey, I've seen all these types of problems before. There's only so many different types of LR questions. There's only so many different types of logical errors one could make. There's only so many types of conditional reasoning,
Yeah.
illegal maneuvers, right?
Yeah.
Pointing the arrow the wrong way. There's only so many ways you can point that arrow. I mean that in terms of conditional reasoning. And so it's good to go in with a little bit of confidence that whatever they throw at me, I have an approach for. And as soon as I start reading this question stem, a light bulb will go off in my head around, oh, I know how to tackle this question. And when you get into that mentality of like, okay, I've seen this before, I know exactly what I'm going to be doing here. You'll be in a place where timing is not your biggest issue for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking to that too, I mean, the place where it goes from the most time to the least time is definitely those conditional problems. So things like translation. I mean, you say you got to know where the arrow goes, so you need to know how to translate sentences, regardless of whether or not you actually diagram on the test. You need to know how to translate, and the way to do that is by diagramming mostly. I always try to emphasize it, and it's really hard to stick, but it's like so much of this test is merely knowing how to translate a conditional quickly. And if you can, there's not much thinking you really need to do. You can just consider it as like a stream of arrows, basically.
Yeah.
So I would say if conditionals take any brain power for translation, avoid
You're gonna have timing
maybe that.
issues.
Yeah, you're gonna have timing issues. So to practice
Yeah.
translating, not unless it's not a tennis ball unless it's round. So if tennis ball, then round, and just do that a couple times, and eventually it'll connect. But yeah, I guess that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and then I think the last thing I'll say is just like once you get to a point, and if you see a conditional reasoning question and you can automatically translate every sentence in there into conditional logic, then oftentimes you won't have to read every answer choice. You'll see the right one. It'll be obvious. So just circling back to our initial point there. So anyway, thanks Lana for sending in the question. If others are watching this and you want to send
enjoy that free
in
month
your
of live,
questions,
Lana.
yes, enjoy your free month of live, Lana. If we pick your question to answer on our show, we will give you a free month of live. So please send us questions. We love to help you out. This was Henry and ZeSean
Yeah.
answering
H
questions.
to the Z, Z to the H,
H
maybe.
to the Z, Z to the H.
Yes.
Good morning, good night, everybody.
Wow. Okay.